Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. We got a link tree there with links to all the other stuffs, including today's guest's bio and all of our other social medias and other projects and endeavors and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Before we get started, this is the trigger warning. This is a horror podcast. We talk about horror things, so we could talk about and discuss sensitive subjects, and there may or may not be foul language. So if that is not your cup of tea, then go listen to something boring. And after you're done with that, you can come back and listen to this fun thing.
Right. Today we're talking to Howard Berger, FX artist and author, known for fucking everything, which I can say the F word now since we had the intro. Yeah. Let's see. Day of the Dead, People Under the Stairs, Army of Darkness, Walking Dead, Kill Bill, Interview with a Vampire, and many, many more. I think I saw 976 Evil or something as I was scrolling through. I haven't seen that title in a long time.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Also author with a new book to talk about, and previous one was Masters of Makeup Effects. Welcome, Howard. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Before we get into the meat of the interview, you want to let people know what you're currently working on?
So I own this company with Greg Nicotero called K&B FX Group, and we've been around for 38 years now. It's been a long, long time. We've done millions of shows and movies and all that crazy stuff, and tons of horror, of course. And one of the shows that I run is the AMC series Interview with a Vampire. So we're currently shooting season 3 in Toronto, and that's going very well. It's very different this season, which is cool. So we've got that going on. I'm in New Mexico on a non-horror related movie that is called Joseph of Egypt, which is kind of an offshoot of the show The Chosen. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But it's the story of Joseph and his brothers and the coat and all that good stuff. So it's I really mix it up. I find interesting projects, and it doesn't always have to be horror related. It's not always. And so I'm here in New Mexico. I've been here for 2 months, and I've got another 2 months to go, and it'll be an Amazon series. Cool. But it's good. And Greg Nicotero's in LA, and he has a show called Guts and Glory that will start in October on AMC Plus, which is a really super cool horror competition show. It's almost like Survivor, but with a horror element. So it's really cool. Yeah. Every episode is a massive horror challenge. So it's really cool. And then, of course, we've got Walking Dead offshoots, like the Maggie and Negan one, and then the Daryl Dixon one, and who knows how many other ones are coming down the pike. We're always staying busy at the shop at K&B, and that's kind of what's going on these days.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Greg's been on our to get list for quite a while too. Actually, with your amazing list of accomplishments, I hadn't seen that connection, so maybe we can talk about that when we finish wrapping this. But that said, this call mainly is not about your body of work. It's about your own personal love of the genre. So your stuff may not come up too much, but it might. We're not opposed to that. That said, it's not meant to be a therapy session. So if there's any questions we ask that you don't want to answer, just say pass them and move on.
It's fine.
What are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Oh, well, I've always loved monsters and horror. And movies ever since I was a little kid. So like the first real horror movie I think I saw actually was Night of the Living Dead. Okay. And it was on television, and my dad woke me up and he's like, "You got to come see this movie." I mean, I was really, really young. I think my mom had a total shit when she found out, but I loved it, and I was suckered into monsters and movies my entire life. And, then seeing the Universal horror films, of course, were big, especially Creature from the Black Lagoon. That was my biggie and still is. Like, I love that monster so much. And, I always felt and still feel that monsters are victims of circumstance, and the creature was perfectly fine living in the Amazon until these assholes showed up and took him out of his element. Same with King Kong. Same with every monster, essentially. I think that's also what I looked at them not as being scared, but they were like my friend. So I was a very strange little kid because I dressed up like Dracula or, stomped around the house torturing my sisters as King Kong or something like that. And I just started to love, and start to realize that there were people in the industry that made these monsters, So my dad, got me a bunch of magazines and so forth, and he was in the film industry too. He was a post-production sound editor. Yeah, so he was a sound editor, and I loved it. We watched movies nonstop, and a lot of them were horror films. And I had the Aurora monster model kits when I was a little kid, and it was all monster obsessed. That's all it was, And then as I got older and started practicing, my career, at that time it was a hobby. And I'd say it was probably about 10 years old. And then about 12 years old, I started to meet my heroes, which were like Rick Baker and Stan Winston and Dick Smith and, guys like that. And as I got into high school, I started to do more and more makeup effects stuff and really trying to hone my skills as a teenager. And when I graduated, I got hired to work at Stan Winston Studios, and I worked on Aliens, and that was the start of it. So I was 18 years old, and I've been working ever since. So this is my 42nd year in the film industry. And
okay, so going back to childhood there, Night of the Living Dead, Creature from the Black Lagoon, anything else stand out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a movie with Ray Milland and Rosie Greer called The Thing. I think it's called The Thing with Two Heads, or it's either The Thing with Two Heads or The Two-Headed Transplant. It's one of those titles, and it's super, super great. And I saw it when I was young, and it blew me away. And I actually just recently watched it the beginning of the year because it was on some funky TV show, and I was like, hey, you know what? This is a pretty darn good movie. This would be fun to reboot. But what really stood out to me was in the beginning of the movie, there's a two-headed gorilla running down Hollywood Boulevard. And I'm like, that's a really cool gorilla. And it turned out it was Rick Baker, one of his first things he did. And he's in the suit, and it's this two-headed thing. And it looks so bloody cool. And I've talked to Rick about it. He's like, oh, it was such a piece of shit. It was like store-bought fun fur. I'm like, no, Rick, it's super cool, man. It had such a big influence on me. But things like that really, really influenced me. Dr. Phibes, the movie Dr. Phibes, and Dr. Phibes has Risen from the Grave, gave me massive...
Oh, there was a sequel.
There is, yeah. It has Risen from the Grave. The Risen from the Grave really gave me nightmares. So my dad let me see it I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I go figure. And I had fucking nightmares every night. There's like one image in the movie, they uncover this guy who, is buried in the sand. And I just, the image freaked me out. So I would wake up screaming every night. And my mom came in and she would just kind of be so pissed with me. She's like, that's it. God damn it. You're never going to see another horror movie as long as you live. So I proved her wrong on that one, but, but I couldn't get enough. I just couldn't get it. Everything was monsters and horror. And I just got a huge thrill of it. And of course I love the Hammer films, Oh yeah. The Christopher Lee vampire films really hit it for me. And I think why, I'm not a huge fan of the Lugosi Dracula. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's cool. But the Hammer shit I love because, one, it's in color. There's tons of blood and there's boobs in it. And I'm like, these movies are so great. They really push the envelope where I felt like, the other Dracula films were like, okay, yeah, they're cool. But it just wasn't enough for me. I needed to have that craziness. So a lot of the British horror films that I was exposed to when I was young from the 70s and so forth, 60s and 70s, I really loved. I just thought they were so cool. And, years later, I got to meet and work with Christopher Lee and he was really open about everything. That's one of the cool things about what I get to do is I meet these actors that I grew up idolizing. And then, I feel them out a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, I can ask these questions. And I asked Christopher Lee all my questions. And
you sat down with him.
Oh, man.
Half an hour with him.
Totally. Listen, I worked with Roddy McDowell in 1990. Nice. And I was there on location in Portland, Oregon for 6 weeks. And I just spent my time asking Roddy about Planet of the Apes, and he answered every single question. And I had my little book that I'd had since I was a kid where I collected 8x10s from Planet of the Apes, and he signed every single one of them.
Awesome.
And, it is fantastic. I mean, that was like a dream. I always dreamed of meeting Roddy McDowell because I was so in love with Planet of the Apes. That was the big thing too. When I saw that, I was like, holy shit, that's what I want to do. I want to be a makeup artist. So, but yeah, no, it's still that way. I still get starstruck by people, I like I said, I've been at this for over 40 years, but there's still people I get to work with and that I'm enamored with, be it actors, be it cinematographers, be it directors, be it, whomever. And I'm just like, this is so cool. And I think that I feel that way because I'm still a fan,
Yeah. Did you have a favorite Halloween costume when you were a kid?
Well, I love Halloween. I still do, and we do it big at my house.
Nice.
I'm trying to think. Well, when Phantom of the Paradise came out, I really loved that movie, and I still do. And I did a Winslow Leach makeup on myself, and had made the helmet out of like tin foil or something like that. Put tin foil on my teeth, so my teeth were silver. But I remember I did the makeup on myself, and because he has that one weird burned eye, I was
this film.
Yeah, it's a Brian De Palma movie. It's fucking great. And
have you ever heard of the anime Berserk?
No, I have not.
The antagonist near the end of the film has a helmet that is exactly like this guy.
Oh, really?
Phantom of the
Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't think about I was blinding myself in one eye. And as you're walking through the neighborhood with all your buddies, your equilibrium is off. Mm-hmm. And so I just looked like I was drunk walking down the street. as a kid. Yeah.
No depth perception.
Oh yeah.
I never noticed. He's got one eye blacked out. Is that
it's
in the film?
Well, yeah, because at the end of the movie, he takes the helmet off and he has like a fried eye. Because when he fell into the record press, that eye turned into like a weird, fucked up, like fogged little crispy potato chip eye. And so I did that for my makeup. So when I would take the helmet off, I could do that cool monster makeup. But because I was blind in that eye, I was stumbling all over the neighborhood for hours, and of course had a massive headache. But I love doing it, and super fun.
The old running into the lamppost gift.
Yeah, pretty much. And no, it was super fun. And there was like a gaggle of all of us neighborhood guys who just would go trick or treating until somebody said, "Aren't you guys a little too old for this?" And here's all these guys that are. And I was like, "Well, no." But then we stopped going trick or treating. But then I had kids, and then I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna do this big," and like I forced them. Halloween.
As you do.
Did you have any really scary dreams or recurring nightmares when you were a kid?
No, I didn't. And I still don't. My terrifying dreams are about work, actually. Yeah. I have a reoccurring. I wish I had dreams with monsters and stuff, but I've never, as far as I can recall, I've never had a dream like being chased by something. My dreams are always, I go to set and I put my makeup kit down, and then the actor I'm working with wants something, and I don't know where the fuck my kid is. And that's like my ultimate nightmare. It's reoccurring over again. And it's usually with Mark Wahlberg, which is weird. Because I used to work with Mark for like 8 years. And he never wanted anything, I'd always have to force him into like, we're doing this, we're doing that. But in my dream, he always wants like a black eye. And I'm like, I don't know where the fuck my kid is. And I'm like looking for it. And then I have to find something like, there's a fireplace in the location we're shooting, and I find a little piece of like charred, wood, and I take it out and I make a little black eye with that. And he's like, "Hey, this looks great, thanks." And I'm like, "God damn, I pulled that out of the hat." But that's like a reoccurring. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a reoccurring nightmare I have. But yeah, you know what? It's a lot of set dreams, but they're not scary. They're just like anxiety filled. I wish that like my monsters would come and visit me in my dreams.
It's one of those questions where it's like, if the answer is no, that's probably a good thing.
Probably good.
Yeah. I don't have those dreams, so it's all other shit.
Was there ever a time in your childhood when you were terrified of something in real life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still spooked about like ghosts and things like that. I have an extremely overactive imagination. Plus, I'm a massive dreamer, a daydreamer, and I was one of those kids that would imagine things. I would see things in the darkness, that would be sometimes cool and then be really fucked up. I'll get in my head, like the place I'm staying at in New Mexico is three levels, and at night it's dark, and I get, if I have to go downstairs to refill my water or something like that, I get I don't know why, it just gets creepy. Like I'm going to turn the corner as the fucking girl from The Ring is sitting in there or something, It could be also taking a look at all these hilarious clips on social media of people doing those sort of things and freaking the shit out of people, which I'm sure I would be freaked out by.
Flipping that last question around, was there ever a time in your childhood when you felt exceptionally calm or safe or bliss? Oh
yeah, my whole childhood was great. Yeah, nice. I had a wonderful childhood. My parents were so wonderful, and it was magical, because again, they supported my bizarreness and my weirdness, and realized their son is a freak. And but no, it was cool. I mean, my parents were wonderful, and yeah, it was a great childhood. I miss it. And also growing up in LA in the 70s, man,
right.
The late 60s and 70s, it was never better. And again, I feel bad for kids today because that shit doesn't exist. Like you wake up, you go hop on your bike, you're gone as long as you're, with your buddies and you come home before it's, just as it's getting dark for dinner. And like, there was no bullshit. And, we did stupid things. Like I was telling somebody the other day, there was like a field out by our house and we dug a giant pit and made it a fort, and we found plywood and we put the plywood on top of it and we covered it with dirt, and it just looked like a dirt field. But I'm thinking, how stupid was that? Like if it collapsed, we'd still be underground, dead,
Yeah. So the next two questions are going to come as a pair as well. I'm going to start with the negative one so we can end on the positive. Do you remember the first person you hurt? The
first person I hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me think. Well, you're saying like emotionally hurt?
Either emotionally or physically.
Or physically. Well, physically, my poor sisters were the brunt of all.
It's always a sibling.
Yeah.
I beat the living shit out of my sister Heidi continually. I don't know why. But now my sisters pick on me. So, I guess I'm getting my just desserts. So I was always mean to my sister, Heidi, which I really regret because she's very lovely and sweet. And she just wanted to be with me because she loved me so much. But I was such a dick, I guess. I just felt like I had to be her. And my middle sister, Heather, I was always mean to. And I continue to be a little mean to her just because she's a goof. And my little sister went unscathed. Like no one was allowed to touch my little sister.
Yeah.
So she was the protected one. Yeah. Nobody was allowed
Screw you. That one?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But my eldest sister got the brunt of the fists, and then Heather, my middle sister, got the brunt of complete humiliation and torture. But I think through your life you have a ton of regrets, and you're like, "Fuck, I wish I didn't do that," because I really, I carry a very heavy heart, and I feel like I live my life that treat others the way you wish to be treated. So I try to be as kind and considerate to everybody, no matter who they are, because I just feel there should
Except
be.
for your two sisters.
Well, no, my sisters are okay. They're good now. They have benefited from where I am today, but they were certainly casualties of war while we were growing up. I even knocked my sister Heather's tooth out once. So yeah, it just was like, but it was a free for all at the house, so whatever. I was like, Howard, don't do that. Okay, I won't. That still weighs heavy on me. So,
well, like we said, it was a pair of questions, so we can end on the positive. Do you remember the first person you helped?
Well, probably my sister Heidi. Tell you the truth, because I remember we were going to the same junior high, and we were walking across the street to the bus, and a kid that I knew came up behind her and pushed her into the middle of the street. And I saw it, and I ran over and I beat the living shit out of that kid because no one was going to beat my sister up but me.
Right.
And I picked my sister up off the ground, and it was like in a busy intersection. This kid's a complete douchebag, and picked her up and just made sure she was okay and brought her back. And we both got on the bus, and I just sat with her and made sure she was okay, which she was. That's my first recognition, I think, of helping somebody. But through my life, I feel like I've helped a tremendous amount of people now. On all different levels, with feeling encouraged or giving them great opportunity in the film industry and in life, and just always being a cheerleader and a positive person. I'm super positive. I always feel that, I feel like everything happens for a reason, even if it's shit. So, it's, for instance, to just be honest about it. Like my parents passed away when I was very young. And my mom passed away when I was 19, and that was tough. And before she passed away, I was kind of a bit of a pushover. Like people could take advantage of me, and I was always like wanting to be a people pleaser. So when she passed away, I was like, maybe I need to be a little bit more tough and really kind of not let people do that, because I feel like I sacrificed a lot of things even at 19 years old. And then my dad died when I was 23. And I then was like, okay, this is horse shit. I'm going to kick this into high gear and really change the way I look at things. And that's when I really changed my whole personality, I think, for the better, and just really focused on being a leader, being a really super positive person, and again, saying everything happens for a reason. And listen, there's the whole sliding door conversation. So I could say, like, if my dad was alive, it might be boom, boom, boom. I might still be married to my first wife. I may not have the children I have today. I might have, you never know.
Right.
But I think their deaths is what pushed me and propelled me to be the successful person I am today and all the things I have achieved, because I'm sure in the back of my mind, I'm doing it for my parents to some degree. I mean, I do it for myself because I love it and it's what I want to do. And I try to do everything that I want to do. But I do feel that their passing and missing them has been a huge thing for me to keep moving forward and always thinking. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about them, especially my dad, because of the industry, and he loved everything about the movies and he loved the Academy Awards and all that. And, I think I just finished working on Army of Darkness, and my dad ended up working on it as well, doing some sound effect stuff with Bruce Campbell. And my dad came home. He said, I worked with Bruce Campbell today. And he said, oh, you're Howard Berger's father, huh? And he was so excited. He's like, yeah, it went from like, oh, you're Kenny Berger's son to, oh, you're Howard Berger's father. And I was like, wow, that's
comes
cool.
Full circle.
It did. And my dad was like so blown away. He's like, Howard, like people know you now and you've got a great reputation, and I'm like,
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So there you go.
Awesome.
That's the answer to that question.
Yeah. All right. Rolling into teen years. What scary stories or books or movies stand out to you from your teen years?
Well, I had a book that I loved called Making a Monster, which is kind of why I wrote my books, because I was like, no, they never made a sequel to the book. It's such a great book.
There you go.
I love that book.
Sequel.
Yeah. See, there you go. And so Al Taylor and Sue Roy wrote this book in the early 80s about makeup. It had all my heroes in it. And I carried it around like the Bible. So I loved that. I loved any horror book. Like I still have all of them. I've never gotten rid of any of my books. And I would just look over them over and over again, be it Hammer horror books, or just general horror books. And I loved them all. And I'm also a huge soundtrack fanatic. And so I would just listen to scores out the yin yang nonstop in my bedroom. It was always about that. And, let's see. I have a scary story, actually. We lived in a house the majority of the time we were growing up in Northridge in California, which is in the San Fernando Valley. And we started to notice weird things in the house. Like things would be left open, or we'd hear noises, or it just seemed weird, or you just felt a presence. And it started to get more and more and more. And then my middle sister, Heather, who was very little then, we would catch her in her bedroom talking to talking to somebody she called Mr. Houdini. And she would have full-on conversations, which then led to, Heidi and I beating her up. But nonetheless, my dad did a little research and found out that the person that had built the house died while he was building the house and never got to live in the house. And then it was finished by somebody else. So, believe in ghosts or not, what have you. But bigger things started to happen. And we, like TVs would turn on in the middle of the night. Lights in the house would turn on. We'd hear slamming doors. One time my sister Heidi was screaming in her room and my dad ran in and the whole bedroom was like swirling like out of poltergeist doors and things were opening and, crazy shit. So instead of being freaked out, we kind of learned to live with this entity or whatever was there. And we just said, you're welcome to stay here. Let's be cool. It sounds crazy, but whatever, my mom would be woken up a lot of the times, like feel like somebody was like nudging her while she was sleeping and she'd wake up and nobody was there. You'd hear footsteps through the hallways. And we just kind of grew up with it and just kind of accepted it. And there wasn't an issue. But yeah, that was like freaky, to say the least. But yeah, no, it was total crazy shit, but it was still, I kind of dug it because of the horror aspect. Yeah. Even though ghosts give me the willies, I was still like, this is fucking cool. So
paired to that question, was there ever a time in your teens when you felt exceptionally calm or safe or bliss?
Oh yeah. Again, all the time. I loved it. I was, again, my parents
even in teens. Okay.
Even in teens. Yeah, no, when I was a teenager, I didn't do shit but make monsters. I had like my very first girlfriend when I was like 18 or 17 years old, who I met in high school. And we dated for like 3 years or whatever. But I wasn't a guy. I didn't party. I don't do drugs. I never did do drugs. I still don't do drugs. I always kept control of myself. I only wanted to be creative, So I would go to school, do well. I was a very good student, maintain my grades, come home, go to my room and sculpt or draw or paint or mold make or whatever until dinner. And then I'd go back in my room and work and do stuff. And then, at a certain point, my mom's like, it's time to go to bed. Okay. And then I go to bed and then I just repeat.
I want to go back to the book stories or movies that you may have partaken in. So we kind of talked in generalities, Hammer horror books, film scores. Can you think of any specific books or movies that really stood out to you as impactful in that?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in teenage years, of course, Jaws was like mind blowing and still is. And I went to go see it again last weekend, projected. And I'm like, this movie's so fantastic. Jaws was massive to me. A great horror movie, a British horror movie. It's not part of the Hammer universe, but it's called The Legend of Hell House, which stars Roddy McDowall, by the way. I love that movie. I watch it often still. I think it's a really good, scary film. In then early 80s, of course, for God's sakes, you had American Werewolf, you had The Howling, you had The Thing, you had E.T., you had Conan the Barbarian. Those were really incredible movies. And even let's go back to 1970. Well, we went to 75 with Jaws, go to 1977 and Star Wars comes out and then all bets are off. Like that's that. I am sunk into the film universe 1000%. And I'm like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. I want to work on films like this. So
Jaws and American Werewolf, it'd be easy to say that both of those have, the FX component. Was there anything about those movies that you liked other than the effects?
But no, it wasn't about the effects. And it's still not that way. So for me, it's about the movie. So I don't go see a movie that's like, oh, this has great effects, because that doesn't work. I've always felt this way, that you want to see a film that works from beginning to end, that it's there on the page. Okay. So I'm not driven, or it's not dictated to me that like, I'm going to go see this movie because there's all these makeup effects.
So what did you like about Jaws story?
Well, Jaws was just incredible to me. It's like, I love the adventure. I was scared. Every time I saw it, Ben Gardner's head popped out. I screamed. I was terrified. I think that, Happy Accident, that movie's like a happy accident that the shark didn't work, in the POV. Imagine if the shark worked. It
would have been so much worse.
It would have been a whole different movie. It would have been a completely different film because, there's the fucking shark. Yeah, the fact is that the shark's revealed in that one, come on down here and chum some of this shit. And you see the shark really for the first time. You're like, holy fuck, this is incredible. I love the shark, but I love the movie. I just think the film is so fantastic. And it's a very simple film. It's almost shot like a TV movie, which is, at that point was Spielberg's background. And it's just like he really trimmed the shoe leather, and it's like, it's about this, and this. And it's I love it. I just think it really had a huge impact on me. The John Williams score was incredible and haunting and thrilling, and then, with American Werewolf, of course, you have Rick Baker. Idolize the guy, and John Landis, who I love. But, I have a theory that depending on because the Howling, which I love as well, the Howling and American Werewolf came out basically the same. Well, they came out the same year, basically the same summer. And I have a theory that whichever one you saw first is your favorite, And so I saw The Howling first, and it blew me away. And I love the werewolves in it. Rob Bottin's werewolves. I just love. They're very Bernie Wrightson-esque. They're biped, and they have these big giant ears, and they're really cartoony, and they're just fucking cool. And Eddie Quist.
It's interesting what you just said about your theory, but you actually brought up American Werewolf first.
I did bring it up. But I was getting to The Howling. Don't worry.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. But yeah, I love The Howling. So I saw The Howling first, blown away. And then American Werewolf came out, and I saw that, blown away. But it's a different movie. Yeah. It's there's just, obviously the way Joe Dante made his movie and the way that John Landis made his movie, they're very two different films. Rick's work in the film is iconic and groundbreaking, and his werewolf is a quadruped, and It's super cool, but I really gravitated to the Rob Bottin, Bernie Wrightson like werewolves, and
Well, hang on a second, because like this is something that's come up in plenty of interviews. So you're definitely not the first, but and also people who have gotten into the career at an early age have also had this happen too. But there's a difference between liking something as an auteur versus liking something at the gut level. It's more of like a cerebral versus emotional thing.
Sure.
Everything that we've talked about for both American Werewolf and The Howling have been more of a cerebral thing. At the gut level, what really stood out to you about, for example, the American Werewolf?
From a gut level, I think the mix of comedy and horror, even though The Howling's funny, but not always maybe intentional. But John wrote Werewolf to be funny because John's funny. I like that mix. I like that it, let's see, what else? It had Jenny Agutter in
it. Fair.
Naked in two sequences. And I was like, holy mackerel, look at that movie. Look at that. What's going on there? It made you want to be a backpacker and be attacked by a werewolf. There's something about American Werewolf that I don't know. It hits me on all levels. The Howling, I think, is really hits me on the gut level because I think it's got some really incredible sequences. The differences between the transformation stuff that Rick did, that Rob did. Rob's is really visceral and grotesque. The whole Eddie Quist stuff, and it's very indulgent. Rick's is. The fact that John wanted it to happen in bright light, in a room and, minimal cuts and so forth, I think is pretty great. But I love the stories. I mean, I love anything that has to do with transformation. I think it's always interesting. It's the character development. And then, with American Werewolf, I feel I love the whole relationship with David and Jack, I think worked really well. He keeps coming back and trying to warn him and tell him to kill himself. And, he's more and more rotted and decomposed.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. How David Jack seems to decompose more and more.
Which is super cool, but it's still Jack. Like even when they're in the movie theater, he's like, I'm your friend, David, and he's just a skeleton at this point. It's those relationships there's still a bond between Jack and David, and I really like that a lot. I think that's opposed to being horrified or grossed out. He just accepts like this is my friend Jack, who's now who's dead and is becoming a rotting corpse. But he's still my friend, and he means the best.
What about The Legend of Hell House?
That film just scared me. I think it's so cool. I love how gothic it is. I love how big it is, but yet it's very intimate. I think it's got a great twist at the end of the movie. Of course, Roddy McDowall's in it, so right away I was in love with it. Because Roddy can do no wrong, and I don't know. There was just something about it. The sound of the movie. The movie doesn't really have any music in it, but it has really haunting sound effects that feel very like cavernous and empty and hollow and very, very scary stuff. And
sound is a big thing in film. I've noticed over the years, like the score, the sound effects, and just the overall tone. Like you can have a movie with shit special effects and shit acting, but if it has the right tone and the right score, it's still successful. Listen,
I'll give you a great example. All right. So I worked on this movie Scream. All right. And I fucking hated working on it. Like I thought it was the worst script I've ever read. So it was with Wes, and we had done a bunch of movies with Wes, and the last movie I did with Wes was Vampire in Brooklyn, which of course wasn't received very well. And so Wes was like, geez, because they offered Scream to Sean Cunningham and George Romero and all these other horror icons, Tobe Hooper, they all passed on the script. And Wes was like, I got to get something. So he took it. And I read it, and I was like, I have seen this movie 300 times. I mean, and it just wasn't.
That's the point. It's meta. It's derivative.
It is. I know, but it made me mad because I literally threw that script across the room numerous times. Because
you actually physically threw the script like, fuck this movie.
I totally did. I kid you not. Like I'm reading, I'm like, fuck this, and I throw it across the room, and then I have to go back and pick it up and read it because I have a meeting in the next day with Wes, Like, and so I didn't buy into it. I just felt like this is ripping off shit we've done with no sense of, honor. Not that I needed acknowledgement, but honor. And I'm like, this is just rehashed garbage, in my opinion. And listen, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. We all felt that way on set. All right. This was not a movie. We were like, this is going to be the greatest box office hit. They're going to do fucking 20 years of these movies, And I was on set as we were shooting in San Jose at night. And Wes went, I think this is the nail in my coffin.
Wow. Oh. No, I can see how you feel that way, especially being immersed in it and working on it at during production, because as we're talking about this, I'm guessing the end or punchline here is coming back to the sound and the score. And without all that, just working on it in the silence of on set, you're just like, God, this is, I don't know, guys. This might not be so good.
Dude, it was dreadful. I was like, because I'm usually very involved and right there and standing on set, and I just sat in the trailer waiting for them to call me. I was like, I really have zero interest in this movie. And I just did it because, okay, I'll go do the show. Mm-hmm. Sounds great. I mean, even finding the look of the killer mask, the Scream mask, was a fucking roundabout nightmare.
Yeah, it went through a couple of iterations before they saw.
Well, I mean, we just didn't hit it. We couldn't hit what it was. And there's nothing in the script that says anything other than like a mask guy. And I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? So we had our illustrators do like drawing after drawing, and I'd show him the West. He's like, nope, that's not it. That's not it. And so how that mask came about was that Wes was on a location scout, and he was in a bedroom, and he took a photo because he wanted to take a photo of the lighting or what have you outside, looking out into the backyard of this house. Mm-hmm. And when he got the photos back, there just happened to be this mask that was hanging on a wall. And he's like, that's the mask. Huh. And we're like, wow, okay, that thing. So that's like the classic Scream mask, that this company owns or whatever. And so to avoid any issues with trademark or copyright, we at K&B sculpted a series of different masks. And the reason why there's series of them is because everybody had their own, wanted their own version. So Wes had a version, Bob Weinstein had a version, Harvey Weinstein had a version, probably 5 other people at Miramax had a version. So there's multiple looks of that mask through the course of the movie. I think we ended up sculpting like 5 versions, maybe. Bob Kurtzman actually sculpted all of them. And and then at the end of the movie, they ended up reaching out to the company that made that mask, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you a case of them. And they sent a fucking case, which is what they've been using ever since. Because part of the agreement, I'm sure, was like, hey, if this movie's successful, we own the rights to it, so we can sell it as Scream masks. And of course, it became like the #1 Halloween mask in the history since Michael Myers, Don Post, William Shatner mask. But anyhow, so I went and saw the movie, and I was like, holy fuck, this worked. And it all came together in post-production. And I give Wes that credit, and Patrick Lussier, who's his editor. And the performances cut really well, because there was maybe 1 or 2 actors that were like, yee. And they ended up working out really, really well. The score is great. Sound effect, everything about it. And I was like, wow, I was wrong. And I'm so glad they didn't ask me about this. The other thing I thought that worked really well was, and this was Drew Barrymore's idea, was she was originally going to play Sydney, and she read the script. She's like, I want to play Cassie. And Wes was like, yeah, but you'll be killed in the first 5 minutes. She's like, I know, that's the red herring. That was her idea. That was her idea. Interesting. And so she's like, I want to play this part. Because people won't go, oh, they're going to kill Drew Barrymore off in the first 5 minutes. Yeah. And then she's gutted, and I was like, that's fucking brilliant. That's what a great idea. It was also that, she shot for a week. So she's probably like, I'd rather shoot for a week than be here for like,
there's that weeks. Too. But I mean, and then the immediate connection with Psycho. I mean,
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that worked really well. It's a great red herring, Yeah. And also at the time, so Friends was on hiatus for the summer, and all the other actors had gotten film deals except for Courtney. And so they reached out to Courtney, and they got her for dirt cheap in the grand scheme. And, this movie went on, been in, however many, making tons of money, which is great. She's lovely and wonderful. She also met her then husband, David Arquette, who is also outstanding and wonderful. That's, see, everything happens for a reason. She didn't get offered a big Hollywood job, but she got to work in this little horror movie, and got paid whatever, met her husband, ended up, but you never know, man. Like you're standing on set and you're like, I think this is going to be good. And then it's not. Sometimes the more fun you have making it, the film doesn't turn out as much fun. There's plenty of movies that I enjoyed working on that I did not enjoy watching.
There's a phrase that I came up when I was bartending in Ybor down in Florida. A nice little concise way of putting it is I realized that it's not the people in the party, it's the party and the people.
Yes, totally.
Because there were plenty of nights where we had not as many people, but it was a much better atmosphere than when we had 400 people.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree with that, and I think that all goes back to the quality over quantity. So
exactly, yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's very, very true. Yeah.
Let's.
So there's my Scream story.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good story. I like it.
Yes, agreed. Let's see. So that's body work. What were you a fan of in your adult year? What have you been a fan of in your adult years?
My taste in horror films are very specific. I like them to be fun. I'm not into torture horror films at all. I don't find those entertaining on any level, even though I've worked on some like Hostel and Hostel 2 and, things like that. But I like just in the world of Eli Roth, I prefer like Cabin Fever over a Hostel movie. I don't like things that are mean. I don't think it's necessary. I think that's where Walking Dead went astray. So I'm not into that sort of horror. Like I went and saw that movie Megan, not Megan 2.0. I haven't seen that yet, but I really liked that movie. I thought that was a fun film. I like films that are fun. And
it was fun.
Yeah, it's fine. And the sexy robot dance is always good. So, throw that in there. There's in the world of film, there hasn't been like a tremendous amount of like cool genre horror stuff that I've like really loved. I think TV has really captured a lot of that. There's some really, really great stuff that I think is cool. I mean, I just finished watching yesterday Alien Earth, which I thought was interesting. And I'd worked with Noah on 2 seasons of Legion, and he's Legion. He's a really interesting guy. And watching the show, I could tell what his directives were. He's a man of very few words. And it took me a little bit to understand his language, but I finally did. And that's when I do a job, I have to find the language the director's speaking, because sometimes it's a lot, or sometimes it's very little. It just might be a word, and I'm like, okay, I know what he wants. But I think there's some really great stuff on television that's super cool. I mean, I'm not a massive Ryan Murphy fan, because I think now he's just doing mean shit with all this serial killer stuff, which I think is highly unnecessary. But I appreciated the first couple seasons of American Horror Story. I thought there's some super cool stuff in that. The hotel one was freaky deaky.
What'd you like about it?
I just thought it was really creative. I thought it was cool to put it's kind of a haunted house thing, which I love. I thought the terror of it all was awesome. I loved all the look of everything. I thought that it was ballsy, man. It was just like the blood. I couldn't believe how much blood was in that like first or second episode. I'm like, how did they show this on TV? My God. Because on film, like you can't show that, but TV, I'm like, that's why movies are kind of a little pussy, because TV is like showing everything in the universe. I can do more stuff on television than I'm allowed to do in a film, trying to think other things that have really influenced me. I wish Hollywood would give Joe Dante, another opportunity to make a really nice movie, because he's a great filmmaker. Don Coscarelli, those guys. For some reason, horror is still a dirty word, even though horror exists nonstop. It never fades in the industry, and it always makes money. And even when they disguise it as a thriller, it's not. Like I remember that movie Wolf came out, which I'm not a fan of. But
Jack Nicholson one?
That's a fucking monster movie. It's not a thrill. It's not a thriller. They're like, it's a thriller. I'm like, 2 guys turn into werewolves.
I guess they called it a thriller because of the little amount of gore and blood as opposed to things like slashers. But I agree. It's a monster movie.
There's 2 people that turn into werewolves. Yeah. So, I mean, that's not a thriller.
It's a monster movie.
Yeah, they try to disguise some. Even Silence of the Lambs was labeled a thriller. And I'm like, no, that's a horror movie for sure. That's a great film. Really, really, really. I love that film. I got a chance to work with Tony Hopkins on a movie called Hitchcock. and
I love that you call him Tony.
yeah, right. And listen, when I met him, the first time I met him, which was at my interview,
Sir.
I said, shall I call you Sir Anthony? He's like, oh no, that's bullshit. Just call me Tony.
That's awesome.
He's like, I don't believe that stuff. And he is Tony Hopkins. And, it was great. It was great. And, once in a while, I never pried him like, Tony, tell me about. But there'd be times he would say, like, back on Silence of the Lambs. And I'm like, I would just take it in.
Just put the hands on your chin, leaning close, like, yes.
Absolutely. I'd be like, yeah, I was like in like little like birds flying away with giant beating hearts. But he did tell me
why he did that.
Yeah, probably. Or would be on set and he would just like go. And I'd be like,
yeah, that's on purpose.
But he did tell me a super cool story. So when the movie came out, he was in North Carolina doing a film with Rene Russo. And it was like weekend. It was like a Sunday. And I want to say it was like in North Carolina. And so she wanted to see the film. And he's like, okay, well, I'll go with you. And so he's like, but we'll sit in the back and all that. Yeah. So they're sitting in the back and they're watching the movie. And then, there's a power outage because it's always wacky. The weather's wacky there during the summer. And the lights come up. And Tony stands up and the whole audience turns and starts fucking screaming bloody murder because there's Hannibal Lecter right behind them in the theater. And he just went for it. He just did the whole Hannibal Lecter thing and people went ape shit in the theater. And he's a guy who he loves to play. Tony has like a wonderful sense of humor. He's such an incredible human being. And he loves to play and have fun. And he knows, he doesn't take it seriously. He takes his work extremely seriously, but he doesn't take anything else seriously. He's a very fun human being. So, but I really loved that. And I was like, we got along really well on that show. It was super fun. Cool. But yeah, people like that inspire me. Filmmakers inspire me. I'm always excited to see this movie or that movie. Like, this summer, I'm excited to see a bunch of films. And, I think that hopefully Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein will be one of my faves this year.
It looks really good.
It does. It looks super, super cool. And I love Guillermo. And, I think his visual sensibilities are incredible.
Okay. So this next question I think might be difficult for you, but we'll give it a try.
Go ahead.
What movie have you watched more times than any other?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say it's a tie, believe it or not, between Jaws and Young Frankenstein.
The classics.
Yeah, I love Young Frankenstein. When it was in release, I saw it 23 times in the theater.
Which one?
Because I love Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
Saw it 23 times in the movie theater because I loved it. And it was playing right by my house and for like $1.25. And during that summer, I went almost every day. Jaws, I probably saw 15 times in its original release and then have watched it probably another 20 times perhaps and seeing it again last weekend. It's a movie that I never tire of and I always see something new.
I wanted to ask you about Young Frankenstein. We had talked about Jaws previously, but Young Frankenstein hadn't come up. What do you like about Young Frankenstein?
There's something about that movie that hit me hard when I was a kid. I think because it's such a beautiful homage to Frankenstein, which I love, and Bride of Frankenstein, which I love even more. And I love the look of the film. I thought it was funny as hell. I love the creature in it. I mean, what's there not to love? Gene Wilder's in it, Terry Garr.
There's so many good things. There are no negative things.
There is no, that's true. It's the perfect storm. And the fact that it's a horror comedy, I just loved it. And it got to the point where I actually took a tape recorder with me to the theater, and I recorded the entire movie, and I would just listen to the soundtrack, the movie playing in my head. I would go to bed and put my headphones on. Nice. And listen to Young Frankenstein. And I could repeat that movie backwards and forwards. And there's another effects guy named Bill Corso who's great. And he's equally obsessed with that film. So much so that he painted his own posters. Because when he was a kid, his folks would buy him the poster for the movie. So he painted a copy of himself. He himself painted his own Young Frankenstein poster, which looks identical, and it's super fucking huge. And he has it in his house. But I'm like, okay, that's how much he loved it. But yeah, we all love Young Frankenstein.
So if Jaws and Young Frankenstein were the two movies that you've seen more often than any others, would you consider one of them your favorite, or would you pick something else to be your favorite?
Well, I think Jaws is my all-time favorite movie.
Okay.
I love it. I mean, I have so many movies. I keep a list. I have a giant list. I don't know how many films. I can't even count it that are like my go-to. And when I meet somebody who says they're a film fanatic or, cinephile, I say, well, let me send you my list. And half the time, like, I haven't seen like 90% of these films. I'm like, so then you're really not a film fanatic. I'm like, tell me what you like. No, but it's like,
I wouldn't say mean. It's not really fair though, because your list is vast.
It is. But then I say, well, send me your list. And then they send me their list and it's like 15 movies. And I'm like, guys, come on, but I also, the past couple of years, and I don't know why I've done this, I have kept a log of every movie I see or every like TV show I watch or series I watch. And I've just been keeping a log. I'm just interested to see what I'm watching. So, it's been going on for like 4 years and it's like, fuck, I watch a lot of movies.
That actually ties in very nicely with the next question I wanted to ask, which is, do you see any common threads about what kinds of horror you like? Cannibalism, occult, metaphysical, supernatural?
Paranormal. Supernatural.
I like supernatural quite a bit. Yeah, I like that. I'm not. Yeah, I think supernatural, occult stuff. I really enjoy. Pretty much anything with a monster, I'm game for.
So this would normally be the spot where we would talk about common themes that keep cropping up, and then talk a little bit about how those intersect with the horror genre. Really, kind of two main topics: relationships and imagination. Relationships, you've talked about your mom and your dad and your sisters. You talked about monsters being victims of your circumstances and they're being your friends. The line from a movie, I don't remember what movie it was, but I put it in bold because I really liked how well it summed this up. But the phrase was, "He's dead now, but he's still my friend."
From American Werewolf.
Yeah. Imagination, talking about Christopher Lee's Dracula. The phrase you said was something like, it was crazier than older horror, but you needed craziness. Right. The scene from Dr. Phibes, Jaws being adventure and suspense. Right. These are all things that gel with imagination. Right. And so I guess the first question is, why do you think those things are important to you?
Why do I think all those things are important to me? Why do I think? I don't know. I think I just think that that's what makes things so interesting. It's it can be very eclectic. I'm all over the place. Like, I don't have like, it's got to be this and this. I will say I'm a purist at times, and my wife gets on my ass about it. She's like, well, that doesn't mean, but I don't, I ultimately just want to enjoy and be entertained and think about certain things, be it touched, emotionally, feel it in my heart. I like to be challenged, and I got to figure out the conundrum, of it all. What else? That's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, I'm a fan of everything. I'm always like to stay busy. I like my brain to be ticking away. I like to always be feeling whatever that is. And, I think my interests that's what interests me about everything. It's inspiring. It really drives me. I'm never bored, ever. I always feel like there's always something to do, and it's usually fun. The only thing I do that's not fun is every week I have to, put all my pills into my pill box. And I hate that. That's boring as shit, even though it's 5 minutes. But I hate that. But I love things that are wondrous. And listen, I'm not opposed to anything moving forward. I'm not afraid of the future, and I'm not one of those guys like, I wish it was like the good old days. The good old days are the good old days, and you can't relive anything like that. You can't go back in time. And that's the thing too, when people are like, they go make it, they use the word again or go back or like, it doesn't, there's no going back to shit. You're going to move forward, and whatever that brings. Like within my industry, the big fear is AI. I'm not worried about it, but I'm super curious about it, and I'm trying to learn what I can. I'm not interested in hopping online and going to Midjourney and creating things based on prompts. I have zero interest, but I'm interested to see what other people do with it. Yeah. And at my studio, we do use AI to create certain options, some things that we may not be thinking of, like we have a bank of really talented designers, and they'll do a couple passes, and then maybe we'll put a little prompt into AI and see what that comes up. We would never submit an AI generated piece, but we will take things from it like, oh, that's a neat idea. And I didn't think of that. And I didn't think of that.
Still a valid resource.
There's
It is. And, yeah.
I don't have it anymore. Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I don't have it anymore, but there was a program I used to use for music creation. And it was this very cool little app that had like all kinds of different audio, like you could do distortion, phasing, flanging, delay, echo, like every possible effect that you can think of. It had all of them inside this thing. And there was a button you could click on it that just said randomize, and it would set all of the different settings on every different possible thing to random settings. And you just hit the random button and play something through it and see if you liked it. And if you didn't like it, hit random again and just keep doing that until you find something you liked. And they go, oh, that's an interesting idea. Let me play with that. There's pros and cons to AI. I think that's probably one of the better uses for it at the moment. That's a whole side topic, but let me summarize what I've heard from you in the last few minutes and then give it to you maybe in a bite-sized package. You said that you like to think about things, feel touched by things, always like to be feeling, never bored, always fun, things that are wondrous, can't go back in time, only forwards. I would sum all of that up by saying life affirming.
Yeah. I'll buy that.
And absolutely. So to dig one layer deeper, if we can.
Sure, dig. I don't care.
Well, it's one of those things where you can ask the question, you don't know what's going to come up, or maybe nothing will come up, but you don't know until you ask. Do you have any idea why affirming life is important to you?
I love to have a great life. I love enjoying things. I enjoy people. I enjoy experiences. I love adventure. I'm not afraid of anything. And I think that's how life should be. I growing up, I had people in my family who were the opposite, who were always negative and depressed and afraid to do anything. And I just thought that was such a waste of time. I think our time on earth is so short. It's a blink of an eye. I think somebody who might live to 100 years old and is passing away probably feels like it wasn't enough time, And I think also because my parents passed early. My mom passed at 45 and my dad passed at 52.
I didn't even think about that connection.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to live life to the fullest, and I'm going to do things that I enjoy, and I'm going to do things that make other people happy too. I do believe this, that no matter what you do in your life as a career, whatever, you can have the biggest, whatever, you're the best artist in the world, or you're the greatest writer in the world. But if you're a shit person, you're not going to be remembered. Right. And that's how you're going to stay remembered. That's how how you stay alive in the future, is by people remembering how you made them feel. Yeah. And that's super important to me. Not that I feel like, I want people to remember me, but I don't want to. There's so many people that were so iconic who have passed and have been forgotten because they weren't really that great of people. It's how you live your life. And I feel that, if I can make somebody's life better, that's great. That I think I strive for that. And it's not for me. It's just that everybody deserves a chance to be happy. Everybody should be happy. Everybody should have great opportunities, and be lifted up. I'm not into negativity at all. I really shy away from it because I dislike it so much. I think it's completely unnecessary. I think a lot has to do with my folks having a very short life. And I was like, I've outlived my parents. I'm 60 years old. I've outlived both my parents, and which I'm glad about. I'm sure they are too. Like, hey, Howard, what are you doing here? You're too young. But anyhow, I think it's just about, I always want to have fun. All right. I'm always about comedy. And I think it's like, laughing extends your life, and I laugh so much, and I have my friends, and we all laugh, and we all enjoy each other. And again, that goes back to quality over quantity. Again, I'm back to when I was a kid. I'm back to having barely a handful of real friends. I have acquaintances and colleagues, and I think in the world of social media, everybody thinks they're friends, and the shit that they say to you is like, who the fuck are you? Like, there is no more lines in the sand, which is incredible to me. I would never have written Rick Baker as a kid and called him dude, and I'll get a message on Instagram like, hey dude, and I'm like, fucking motherfuckers. So, it's like, show a little respect, but that's the generation too, dude. Yeah. Show some respect, dude. But that's the generation. They were raised by wolves essentially. And they don't have an understanding of all that stuff. So
I have a little bit of a pass for that one. Cause I mean, especially in California, that word means anything or anyone, but that's a side topic.
But this is worldwide though. We're not just talking about, I'll tell you what, the people in California say dude less than people on the East Coast or wherever. It's incredible to me. I'm just like, what in the wide world of sports? But anyhow, whatever.
So,
so there you go.
So the question here that we would ask is potentially slightly different for you because normally we would ask, now that we've identified affirming life as being important to you, why horror? Right. For a lot of our other guests, there is something that you can only explore in horror, as opposed to other genres. But in your case, A, you can explore affirming life in other genres, and B, you have worked on other genres. So you're interesting. Your answer might be a little interesting in this one. So, why, in terms of affirming life, why horror for you?
I just love it. I think it's super fun. I find it entertaining. I find it thrilling. I find it all the things I like, I like to be scared, although I haven't been scared in, forever and a day, but it's all about being entertained. I love it. And I think horror there's something about horror, and I don't know what it is. If all the people that I know and have known that are horror fanatics and monster makers, if we all grew up in the same neighborhood, it would have been incredible. But the fact is, it's spread throughout the world. And I feel like it's a little bit like Close Encounters, that, there's something in you that makes you gravitate to Devil's Tower, Wyoming. And I feel that way about horror. And we all gravitate to the same sort of things, the same universe, be it a screening or be it a convention. Going to these conventions is the most fun ever because you're in a giant room filled with thousands of people who love exactly what you love and appreciate it and are kind people. Yeah. And it's a wonderful, wonderful community. And I always say the nerds win, and we always do win. And that's a proven fact. I remember I went to my high school reunion. I want to say it was like the 30th year. And all the guys that were super cool and jocks that used to pick on me are all fat, bald idiots with low grade jobs. And I'm like, yep, there you go. And I've got my beautiful wife on my arm and I'm like, the nerds win. This is great. So, but yeah, no, I've always gravitated to horror. There's something about it. I think it's because I was an odd kid and I identified with those characters that they were the odd men out or the odd entities out. Again, I never ever thought they were monsters. I always had that perception that these are, that they've had the misfortune of meeting human beings, which are the worst species on Earth. And but yeah, no, they've always been victims of circumstance. I've always understood that, even since I was a little kid, like 4 or 5 years old. I was never ever afraid of monsters. I'm more afraid of what people do in movies and in real life.
Yeah. The way I see a lot of these interviews, there are some guests that we talk to where the things that excite them about horror are fear-based, but in your case, as with a number of others that we talk to, it seems more joy-based than fear-based. Yes. So, for example, when you're talking about how you haven't been scared in forever, if I think about what scares you being not life-affirming, that would almost seem, mean or cruel or not joyful. But that I don't think that would work for you because it's such a negative compared to what you actually enjoy, which is it's joy-based.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, it's all joy. I'm super joyful when I see, it's almost to the point of giddy. I'll laugh through films because I'm enjoying it. I'm not like laughing at the film. I'm laughing because I'm like, holy mackerel, this is just so much fun. You know,
yeah. I like. And so that's fun. The challenge for you is to find something that would trigger that much joy for you.
Yes, it's very so. That is very true. Be it any genre, but it's hard in the horror genre now because I just don't feel like they're making great horror movies these days, which is probably why I just keep going back and watching the horror films that I love.
What would you like to see?
What would I love to see? I would love to see something that's not IP. I would love to see something that's not a fucking sequel. I would love to see something that somebody just takes a chance and rolls the dice and makes something super cool. Something original. I mean, just, whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm sick of like Paranormal 27, and those things. I just, I feel like Blumhouse had a good footing for a while, and now they've just taken a turn that I don't quite understand, although I appreciate the movies that they make, and I'm glad that Jason Blum is so dedicated to it. But like, I don't want to see any more Halloween movies. I don't want to see any more Jason movies. I don't want to see any more Chainsaw movies. It's like enough.
Yeah.
All right.
They're not
even, I mean, you can barely get through those last Halloween movies, for goodness sakes. I mean, I don't know, but I'd give people the opportunity to do something great. Like somebody writes a cool script, find a way to finance it, instead of other shit.
Before we have you remind people what you're currently working on and hit the closing, I would say this is a perfect opportunity for Chris to tell you about his webcomic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah. It's a little derivative, but it is original. You're always Mario off to poo-pooing my own work before I even start. But no, I had an idea a while back for a somewhat original script about a found family of cannibal lepers that practice necromancy and are trying to bring about a demon god who will destroy this world.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. But specifically, the cannibal necromancy part is that because they're lepers, their body parts are falling apart. So they use necromancy and cannibalism to not only kill people and eat them, but also replace their body parts.
Hence the title Pieces. Yes. They have pieces that fall off, so they have to replace pieces.
Yeah. I like.
And then there was a horror movie back in 1981 by the same damn name.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say there's a film called Pieces already. But,
I've seen it several times, and it's a classic.
Yeah.
Mine goes a little different direction, though.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. Hey, listen, I'm totally up for anything fresh and inventive, and I think people have just fallen back on like the easy go-to. I mean, I remember I had the opportunity to pitch a Chainsaw movie. This was, decades ago. Yeah. And so I came up with a pitch, and they told me kind of what they were thinking, so I pitched it, and I thought it was cool, and it kind of tied into the Donner exposition, not the exposition, but the Donner party. Thank you. Yeah, tied into that, and I really liked it. And so I was pitching to this one female executive, and anyhow I'm doing it. And then at the end, she's like, "Well, we were thinking more like Leatherface and cheerleaders." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Okay, thank you for the opportunity." And I walked out. And I was like, what in the fuck? That company lost the rights. They never made a Chainsaw film. But I was like, here's a person who probably has never seen a Chainsaw movie, who's running this little studio that now has the rights to Chainsaw. I'm like, yeah, that's not the movie that I'm going to ever pitch. Or
our focus group says.
Yeah, pretty much. So now could it be more like Alien and Jaws, but different?
Right.
So I've heard that too.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, it should be Alien and Jaws. So yeah. There you go. But hey, anything original. And I just wish studios would stop being so cowardly and instead of making, and I know this is a big movement now in Hollywood, a lot of filmmakers are like, stop making these $200 million movies and take that money and make like 10 movies out of it or 15 movies, which I totally agree with. We're going to have better films. It's going to be better, no matter what the genre is, it's going to be great. And people will be able to express themselves. There'll be new things that we never imagined and new talent exposed, opposed to just this tired old shit. Like, for instance, I went and saw that movie Weapon, and I liked it. It was fine. I didn't love it. I didn't understand what the big hoo-ha was, but okay. I liked the Gladys character. I thought that was cool. Yeah. Neat. But then they just announced, we're going to do a prequel, a Gladys prequel. And I'm like, why would you do that when she gets ripped apart by children at the end of the first movie?
Well, it'd be interesting to see her backstory and where she comes from. Is she human? Does she just practice occult demonology or something?
But what does it matter? Yeah. Because how this ends. It's the same. It's if you kill a character off, why are you like when they did the Scarface prequel, Carlito's Way? You know how this ends.
I'll tell you why they're doing it. I'll tell you why they're doing it. So
I know why they're doing it.
No. They're doing it to show that she has powers that she hasn't used, so that she can resurrect herself for a sequel.
Maybe you're right.
It is.
There's the and you want to know. You know what? If they do that, then you should get a fucking chunk of the receipts. Okay.
Right. This guy's good at elevator pitches.
Yeah, no, that's a great pitch. Because yes, okay, I'll buy that. I will buy that. You know, and then we have and then we do the sequel, and we see all those body parts and shit reassemble, and you have her sinewy muscles grab onto the top of her head and reform and all that shit. So. Yeah, if they go that route, then I'm good. I actually would. I would actually rather see if you have to do a sequel to that movie. I'm curious about doing it. Doing in the future, and what's the skinny with all the kids now that we're all. To me, that's far more interesting than we know Gladys is going to be a kid who's abused and and she gets in the occult and and then. We end up here, or maybe she's thousands of years old and she was part of the witch burning in Salem. Who the fuck knows? But nonetheless, she ends up getting ripped to shreds by kids at the end of the movie. So where do you go with that? Unless they take your idea, which is the only saving grace.
Potentially.
Or what if, I don't know, she's just a skin suit from some Eldritchian horror that, is gone at the end of Weapons because her... that form was gone, and the prequel or the sequel could explain that it's just a temporary thing,
or passes her knowledge on to those who ate her.
See, it's that's why I think if they were to do a sequel opposed to a prequel, seeing what has become of these children, because obviously by the end of the movie they're not like, hey, this is great, we're out of the curse. They're all whacked.
Great. Some of them haven't even started talking again yet. I would like to see
let's see what happens to those kids. So. If there's a burning desire to tell more of that story. So, which I guess there is because of box office.
So, all right. So, remind everybody what you're doing, and we'll hit the closing. And Chris, don't buy his books because I'll buy one of them for you for Christmas.
That's so sweet. And I'll send you guys signed book plates too.
Thank you.
So right now, I did a show last year called Telemasca, which is part of the Anne Rice AMC universe, and that starts airing on AMC this in October, which is going to be great. It's a great show. It's fun. It's all part of that Interview with the Vampire universe. The show I'm working on now called Joseph of Egypt, which is not horror related, although I did a leper the other day, which I'm super, super proud of, and it's really great. I think it turned out great. And but I'm not sure when this show is going to be released, 26 or 27. I'm unclear. We have Greg Nicotero's show Guts and Glory, which will be out in October again on Shudder and AMC. And I've got two books I've written. One is Masters of Makeup Effects, which you can get at any bookstore that sells books, and Amazon. And then my new book that just came out called Making Monsters that I wrote with Marshall Julius. I wrote both with Marshall Julius. And that just came out last week. And if you live in LA, there's signings on the 25th and 26th. Should be fun and tons of people coming. That's it. And I just keep working and having fun and enjoying life and all that good stuff.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you to everybody out there listening. If you want to find out more about Howard and his work, go to horrormakeshappy.com, go to the episodes page, look for his name, click that link. That'll take you to his bio, and we'll link to whatever he wants us to link to from there. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend.